I just had the chance to work with young ripper Crosby Zimmerman in an effort to help him get ready for a Northwest Cup downhill race. And what we were working on was going off drops more smoothly than he currently was. So this is his current form off drops. And in this drill, what we were doing is trying to get him to be smooth enough to actually be able to land into a turn. Obviously here he's landing pretty hard. So what we're seeing Crosby do here is nothing new for him, going for big air. So he's really preloading and pulling up and going big off the drop, which is great. But for racing, that's not really necessarily productive. We actually want to get back on the ground more quickly. So let's notice here what Crosby's doing with his body. So we can see here that he's essentially pressing down and pulling up. So he's getting a lot of upward motion. This is great when we want to get distance. So essentially preloading. He's pressing through his legs, and then he's even pulling up on the undersides of his hands a little bit. So what we're seeing here is an upward force with the hands and an upward force with the legs, and that sends his whole body upward, which makes sense. So what we actually want is we want to see Crosby start to move straight off the drop or even slightly downward off the drop. So we're going to take a look at the next video now after we got him sorted out, where we're going to get his hips shifting rearward instead of upward. So here again, they're shifting upward. Notice that they're not going back toward the back axle. And here we are about 30 minutes later after working on what we call correct basic form at Fluidride. So essentially this involves a hip shift off the drop. So no longer is Crosby pulling up, he's shifting the hips rearward. And what we see here is just a lot more smooth rejoining of the bicycle. So as he lands, he's landing right over his feet. This is going to put him in a lot better position to land into his footwork and take a turn. So let's just slow this down and take a little look at it. So as he comes through here, rather than pressing down and pulling up, what we're going to see is a hip shift rearward. So we have our cones placed out here about a bike length before the edge of the drop. And at these cones, he's simply going to move forward a little bit, then shift rapidly rearward as the front wheel is going off the edge of the drop. So with his hip shifting rearward, that creates pressure into the fronts of the bars, which allows the bike to stay elevated and gives him a nice safe outcome. But more importantly for his racing, it's helping him stay lower and helping him have a smoother landing. So here he's actually traveling much more quickly than he was when he was hucking earlier. Now there is a time and a place for both. Crosby's 7, he's having a good time, and being so small, I was actually surprised that he was able to use correct basic form because he's so small and light. So he's able to actually get his hips back far enough here to make this work. Sometimes with kids, I just teach them to preload because they're so small that they're not able to do this, but he's a very athletic youngster. Really good form here, going off the edge of the drop. And here we are using correct basic form directly into footwork. So just like that, we got Crosby moving into a position on his bicycle, not pulling up off the drop, and now able to land directly into his footwork. And what he's doing here is actually quite advanced. So we'll notice here he's coming off the drop. He's still moving upward a little bit, but he's getting his hips back, and that's really smoothing out the drop nicely. As he's landing here, this is the really advanced part, he's landing directly into his footwork. So he's going to land, and he's going to make back foot pressure, which allows him to open the inside knee